we are going to learn about for loops, how to use for loops in Python. And we also will review the break statement and continue statement, how to loop through list or string of characters. And we also going to take a look at the range function and how to use range function in a for loop. Let's go through this with an example with the PyCharm editor. Here is an example code I have written, and it's in the PyCharm IDE. Very simple and easy to use. So in this example, I have demonstrated few scenarios with for loop. So we can first start with how to use the for loop. So the for loop has a very simple syntax. You can use for loops to iterate, and to do the iteration, you need to give some conditions or the list of string or the list of variables that you want to iterate through, right? So let's go through one by one. In this example, I have created a list with a list of names. If you want to print these names, then you can simply use for I is a variable in list. So what will happen is, if we say this, the for loop will execute the loop number of times based on the items or the strings in the list. In this list, there are 3 names. So the for loop will run for 3 times. Loop will go through 3 times and then the loop will come out. Okay. So the statements that belongs to the for loop is identified by using this indentation. Anything intended inside the for loop is considered part of the for loop. If you take this print example, this one with dash, this is not part of the for loop because it's left intended. It's same level as for loop. Anything inside the for loop is part of the for loop, and you can have multiple statements. Right? So we're going to run that and see what happens. As you can see, it prints first. It takes the first name in the list, prints that, and then it increments and then moves on to the next name in the list, and then it prints until all the names are printed. Then it comes out. Okay, so this is first example. The second example is you can also iterate through as one name or one string, which means it will extract each characters, and then the loop will run until all the characters are extracted. Okay, so in this for loop, I'm going to say for I in name, and I'm taking the name as an input. So whenever I take the input and assign it to the variable, by using this str, I'm indicating the input is not a number, it's a string. Treat it like a string. So I'm going to give the name as Stephen. You can see I took give the input as Stephen. The for loop started from the first character S and it iterated through all the characters, and you can print it. Okay. The next example that I want to give is about how to use the range with the numbers. This is a very, very important one and very commonly used. Okay. So if you want to iterate through a loop for a specific number of times, you can control the number of times by using the range. So the range is a function that gives a number, starting number and ending number, and that many times the loop will iterate through. So here what you're saying is, for I in the range, start the loop with the 0 and run the loop until the input. So if I give the input as 5, so you took the 5 in the end, the statement translates into for I in range 0, 5. So it will start with 0 until 5. Okay, so not including the 5. So it will run 5 times, and the range will start, or the loop will start with 0. So the I will be 0, and then the I will keep incrementing. The value of I is basically a number from the range. That's what you see here, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then when it comes to 5, that's the end. So it will come out of the for loop, and then it's done. Okay, so the range is very commonly used in most of the programs. So it's important that you understand and practice with this. So here's another example where you can use if conditions or else conditions inside the for loop, right? So inside the for loop, basically you can define the block of statements as long as it's intended left, sorry, right, then it's considered part of the for loop. Okay, so what we're doing is we're doing the same range. We're taking the input, and we have put a condition that even though the range will exit when the condition is met or the loop times, you can also break the for loop in middle by using this break statement. Okay, so you can use the break statement to indicate you can break and come out of the for loop. Similarly, there is also a continue statements where you can also use to indicate continue from this point and don't proceed further in the for loop and go back to the for loop directly. Okay, so in this example, um, when the I is less than 10, which means the if condition fails, it go to else, it will print the I. Whenever the I is 10 or above, then if condition is met, it will come inside, it will break. So if I give the example loop for 12, so technically if we give 12, the loop will continue from 0 to until 12, right? And if we expect the print statement to print from 0 to 11, but it doesn't print the 10 and 11. Um, yes, actually it prints the 10 because the condition is greater than 10, right? It doesn't print the 11. The reason it doesn't print the 11 is when it's 11, we have done the break. So it will not continue to this other statements. It will just come out of the for loop and then it prints the end of program. So that's the usage of for loop. So it's a very simple and very powerful loops. Just like the while loop, for loop is very commonly used in most of the programming languages, and also when you do the program real-time projects in the Python. So take a look and try some examples and play around and learn more about the for loop with more examples and practice. And look out for more videos and subscribe for more videos. Thank you.